All right, Chris, if you want to go ahead and start streaming.
Yep, we are live.
Okay, thank you. The December 17th, 2021 Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It's noted for the record that commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting. Sorry. And a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez, Commissioner Ramirez,
You're on mute.
we'll come back to Commissioner Ramirez. Commissioner Wilcox? Here. Chair Sassoff
Here.
and Commissioner Ramirez.
I'm here now.
Thank you.
Okay. Members of the public had the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting, but we did not receive any public comments. So with that, could the clerk please confirm for us that no public comment was received?
That is correct. We did not receive any public comment.
Thank you. So with that, I think we'll move to commissioner communications. I'd like to open this up for any of the commissioners who have anything like they would like to communicate, and then we'll do the director's report. Anything from any of the commissioners? Okay, Barry, would you like to move to your report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be covering 2 months worth of topics and try to get through this relatively quickly. Starting with some lottery news, Oregon State Police Lieutenant Joel Ratcliffe, currently part of the Oregon State Police Division at the lottery, is retiring. His retirement will be effective just around the corner, January 1st, 2022. A little background on Joel's journey to retirement. He spent 11 years in the Army, and then during his 25 years in law enforcement with OSP, his assignments included stints at Oregon State University, the Albany Patrol Office, and time as a detective at the Salem Major Crimes Unit. And for the past 12 of those 25 years, it's been spent here at Lottery. While at the Lottery, Joel held a number of positions and promotions, including Lottery Detective, Lottery Sergeant, Lottery Lieutenant. And Joel also served as Acting Assistant Director for Security for about a year. I want to thank Joel for all his years in law enforcement and for including the Oregon Lottery as part of his service to the people of Oregon. And Joel, if you're listening, best wishes, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. We made some continued progress developing our tribal consultation policy this month, continuing to gather feedback and input from Oregon tribes. In addition, tribal consultation was a topic of discussion during the annual Tribal State Government to Government Summit held last month, which I attended. A major takeaway for me was that consultation should be approached as a diplomatic engagement between two sovereign nations. We had a good opportunity to practice that approach earlier this week, meeting with leaders of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. They provided great input on our current consultation policy draft. Beyond wordsmithing, however, tribal leaders extended an invitation to myself and tribal liaison Matt Shelby for an in-person visit with tribal leaders to gain a deeper understanding of their community experience. While work to improve Oregon Lottery's relationship with Oregon's 9 federally recognized tribes is never complete, I do plan on presenting a final draft of our consultation policy at the January Commission meeting. A few happenings for November and December. First, the charitable fund drive. Thanks to very generous lottery staff, this year's charitable fund drive was a huge success. 67 lottery staff pledges, $12,520 total dollars pledged, with an average of $186.87 per pledge. We also raised $3,295 from a silent auction for a grand total of $15,815. So thanks to all of our employees who gave generously. Along with the rest of state government, Lottery observed Native American Heritage Month in November. Observed since 1990, the designation aims to provide a platform for Native people in the United States to share their culture, traditions, music, crafts, dance, and ways and concepts of life. One way Lottery observed the month was by highlighting on eLink, our intranet homepage, opportunities for Lottery staff to learn more about tribes in our area, their history, and their experience. Many of the resources highlighted were also shared at the statewide diversity conference earlier this fall. On Veterans Day, the Lottery recognized all veterans for their service, including the 73 we have at the Lottery. As we shared with our Lottery veterans, all of us here at Lottery work to support and improve our communities. For some of us, however, that commitment to community started long before our Lottery journey, serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. On behalf of all Lottery employees, this Veterans Day, we thank you for your service. Thanks to the Oregon Department of Education's partnership with the Oregon Lottery, the Oregon Teacher of the Year receives a gift award of $5,000, as well as a special fund to cover travel costs for the year. In addition, a matching gift of $5,000 is awarded to the Teacher of the Year's school. We took a step closer to learning who Oregon's Teacher of the Year will be last month with the naming of 2 finalists who each received a $2,000 award along with their respective schools. Area B Lottery Field Sales Representative Eli Wolf and Randy Fugate were on hand to help present a check to Teacher of the Year finalist Wes Crawford of Sutherland High School. And Area A Field Sales Representative David Linkle helped present French Glen Elementary teacher Carolyn Whitney with her check, as well as the school's $2,000 award. Fun fact, French Glen Elementary is about an hour south of Burns. The school has 8 students, ranging from kindergarten to 8th grade. During this holiday season, the Oregon Lottery and lotteries worldwide are partnering with the National Council on Problem Gambling and the International Center for Youth Gambling Problems and High-Risk Behaviors at Canada's McGill University to promote giving lottery tickets responsibly. It's a campaign we've participated in for more than a decade. Lottery ticket sales spike this time of year as people buy tickets as stocking stuffers, gift tags, and easy-to-give gifts. The holiday gift-giving season is the perfect time to share the message that lottery tickets are great gifts for anyone 18 years or older. While we put added emphasis on this during the holidays, it is simply part of how we promote our games year-round. We believe that responsible gaming is for all customers all the time. Moving to sales, video lottery revenues continue to perform well above both fiscal years 20 and 21 levels, particularly over last year when most video lottery retailers were closed during the November to January COVID-related freeze. Over the past 4 weeks, video lottery revenues have performed just above our forecast. Despite some recent softening of sales when compared to the last year's incredibly strong holiday season, Scratch-It revenues remain nearly 1% above those last year's levels and well above the OEA forecast for the past 4 weeks. While there have been no significant jackpot levels in the past month, Keno and jackpot fiscal year 22 game revenues all remain above fiscal year 21 levels and slightly above forecast for the past 4 weeks. This trend will likely reverse in the next few weeks, as last January saw very large Powerball and Mega Millions jackpots that resulted in extremely high revenues for the games. November 2021 was Scoreboard's greatest revenue month since launch, registering a gross gaming revenue of over $4.4 million across more than 1 million wagers, with a monthly turnover of nearly 33 million. More than 70% of the monthly activity was exclusively on NFL and NBA wagers. Finally, 2 winner stories for you today. Gilberto R. of Woodburn knows his father loves to play lottery scratch-its. And while at the Circle K on Portland Road in Newburgh, he bought his father a crossword explosion scratch-it. He's been playing for many years, and I know he likes the game, he said. Scratching the ticket, his father thought he'd won $5,000 by matching 11 words. Gilberto said they should check the ticket on the lottery's mobile app to be sure. And when they did, they realized the prize was not $5,000 for matching 11 words. It was actually the $100,000 top prize for matching 12 words. And then, thanks to his wife and grandchildren, Jeff W. of Newburgh is a $73,808 Keno winner. Jeff was shopping at the Safeway in Sherwood and noticed that the 8-spot Keno rolling jackpot was over $50,000. And that's his personal signal that it's time to buy a Keno ticket. Using his grandchildren's and wife's birthdays to select his 8 numbers, Jeff bought one 8-spot Keno ticket for 20 games. Before he left the store, he noticed that the rolling jackpot had dropped to less than $1. Someone won, Jeff thought. He immediately checked his ticket, and going through his numbers and the numbers that had been drawn, Jeff realized that he'd won. Quote, "I texted my wife and told her we'd won," said Jeff. She promptly responded saying, "Is this a joke?" After contacting the lottery and making an appointment, Jeff claimed his Keno prize at lottery headquarters November 9th. No jokes, just congratulations, Jeff. And that concludes my report for November and December.
Thank you, Director Pack. A lot of good news there. I just want to add my congratulations to Joel as well when you convey that. I also so appreciate the lottery and all of its leadership as well as its efforts in terms of the charitable drive. So really appreciate the team that way. With that, we'll move to the minutes of the previous commission meetings. The minutes of the October 27 commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on October 27th, 2021 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Saffhoff.
Aye. Thank you. For the record, the motion has passed. We'll now move to the second set of minutes. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve the, the second set of minutes we had today?
I move the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on November 19th, 2021 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Saffhoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. Kathy Ortega, Ms. Ortega, should we go over the financial report?
Yes. Good morning, Chair Saffhoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. My name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery. We do have 2 sets of financials this month for October and November. As a point of information, I am going to go over just the November results because the October results are included in the year-to-date. So when you approve November and November year-to-date, you will be also approving October. So with that, on the month of November, we had net revenue of $113.4 million on a budget of $109 million, $4.475 million favorable. We had some timing differences under game vendor charges, sales support, game equipment parts, and maintenance, which, as you'll see on the next page, reverse themselves. We are positive on all categories. And just at the bottom, we had a net profit of $81.270 million on a budget of $70.437, $10.8 million favorable to budget. On the next page, we have the year-to-date for November. And as I explained, and you can see down the column, all of the spending categories are favorable. And we had a $6.659 million favorable revenue variance. We had some slight variances on services and supplies, which are all timing differences. And I also have the balance sheet for your consideration today. We also have the capital outlay report as of the end of November. We have on a budget of 33.7, spent 18.4 with a remaining balance of 15.3. It's not very often that we see this kind of spending, and I know Chair Sathoff always usually asks that question, but we have spent more than half of our budget at this point, but it is mostly in the area of our VLT acquisitions. I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of the financial information today.
Questions or comments for the commission? Kathy, you stole my question, so but I'm going to ask anyway. Look, it looks like we're on target on our CapEx, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, great. The other, and it doesn't need to be discussed here, it'll likely be mentioned later, and I know, Barry, you mentioned it in your report, scoreboard is picking up. At some point, I'm hoping someone's going to tell us that with respect to our the beginning and our target, our forecast on scoreboard over the course of, say, we thought a 3 to 5 year build up, whether or not we think we're achieving what we had hoped to at this point. That seems to be a trend that we're seeing consistently. So I don't actually have questions if that one's going to be maybe addressed at a later point.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure that it will be specifically addressed in the staff updates, but I will say that we are certainly on track. We did turn profit within a year on scoreboard, and our revenues are continuing to grow. We do anticipate also, once we are able to sign the contract with DraftKings and move to their more up-to-date and modern platform, that we will continue to see sales increase there as well.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Barry. At least just a point of order. I have two approvals for financials, one for October and one for November. Do you want us to do them separately or just do the November?
Kathy, is the November sufficient for the record? Or maybe Nate?
I have two. We can do both of them. I just thought the way you described it, you wanted us just to approve the November.
I would recommend in the approval saying October and November, but just doing them all at once.
Okay, great. With that, is there a motion to approve the November and October financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for the months ended November 30th and October 31st be approved for the record as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll? Excuse me.
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motions have passed. Thank you all. Kathy, is there anything else that you want to talk to us about before we move to the designation of enforcement agents?
No other business today from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, Director Pack, designation of enforcement agents.
Thank you, Chair Sathoff. You have a memo in your packet to explain the request to designate the Assistant Director of Security and the backup for that position, the Cybercrime Manager, as lottery enforcement agents. This is a request authorized through our operating statutes to clarify and reinforce that the lottery is allowed, through the Assistant Director of Security, access to certain law enforcement information that is sensitive and for law enforcement only, for the purposes of ensuring the fairness, integrity, security, and honesty of the fish. It has no other responsibilities or authorities beyond that, despite the title of enforcement agent. It simply will clarify for federal authorities that our staff are able to access this kind of sensitive law enforcement information that is important for them to do their job. For succession purposes and backup planning, we have both the AD of Security and the Cybercrime Manager being requested for this designation. This designation is specifically required to come from the Commission. With that, I recommend approval, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the Commission? Barry, I know this has been a little bit of an issue, and I'm just really glad that we found a resolution to it. So with that, is there a motion?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission designate the AD for security and cybercrime manager positions as enforcement agents as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Satthoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Chris Scarrow, shall we move to rulemaking?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Chris Scarrow, and I'm the Rules and Policy Analyst for Lottery. I have one quick rulemaking update for you this morning. So recently, tribally owned business entities have expressed interest in contracting with the lottery to sell lottery products at these businesses, which are located off tribal lands, but they're ultimately owned by an Oregon tribe. And we are excited about this opportunity for partnership with Oregon tribes. However, in considering these retailer applications, the scope of required disclosure under lottery's rules is unclear. So for example, it's possible all members of the tribe's governing body would need to disclose, even if they are not associated with the business entity. So this uncertainty around disclosure has been a barrier to moving forward. The good news is that Oregon law allows the director and the commission to waive otherwise required disclosures when they're determined to be unnecessary to ensuring the fish. This does, however, require a change to our rule that describes the alternative disclosure process. So to resolve uncertainty for those pending applications, Director Pack adopted this as a temporary rule to allow tribally owned applicants to be eligible for alternative disclosure. Consistent with Oregon law, this does require director's recommendation and commission approval, which you'll hear more about next, I think. But as to the rule change itself, just wanted you to know we'd like to move forward with the permanent rulemaking process. So the notice is provided in today's meeting materials for you and our audience, and I would report back to you on this in February. And just wanted to note for the record that obviously this is of interest and impactful to Oregon tribes. So we've done some outreach on this and received some good feedback, and we'll continue doing that throughout the rulemaking process. So happy to answer questions. Otherwise, that's all I have for rules this month.
Questions or comments on the proposed rule? Chris, I have a couple. I just want to make sure I'm sort of, I read through the materials. The key to this is that these are off-tribal retailers that we'll be working with. They're off-tribe land, but they're wholly owned by the tribe. And if this can't be answered, it's certainly not critical because next month we'll be looking at this again. But does that mean that when they're off tribe, they are subject to all of the rules and of all our other rules and laws of all our other retailers because they're not on sovereign land? Is that correct to your knowledge? And if not, just follow up next month.
So I would say the answer is yes. Barry or Director Pack might be better able to answer that, but it is important that these are off tribal lands. That is kind of the key here.
Mhm.
Let me jump in, Chris. Sorry. Yes, Chair Southwell, the answer to your question is yes. The distinction is whether the retailer is on trust land versus fee land, because that's where the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act would take precedence if it were on trust lands. So these retailers are either owned by the tribe on non-tribal lands or they are on fee lands.
Fee land. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And we'll look forward to anybody having additional questions about this going forward for next month. But I just wanted to make sure kind of what bucket are we under and how are we looking at them. But in terms of the disclosure aspects, that seems reasonable to me at this time. Thanks, Chris, and I think we'll go ahead and move to the alternative disclosure request from you, Director Pack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have, under the temporary rule, a couple of requests have come in to start the retail contract process. You have a memo in your materials to me from Tessa Hergenretter, the Senior Manager of Retail Contracts. The two entities, the first is owned by the Coquille Tribe, and it is the Roxy Lanes at Bear Creek. The second is from the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, and it is the Hamley Steakhouse and the golf course at Birch Creek, both owned by the Casino Corporation, Wild Horse Entertainment, and ultimately by the tribe. These retail applications meet all of the criteria for the alternative disclosure process as amended by my temporary order and as anticipated by the permanent rulemaking that Chris just reported to you on. And I am recommending that that the commission approve the alternative disclosure process for these entities.
Okay. Questions or comments from the commission? So on the disclosure, I noticed that they're all 100% owned straight down through the entity that will be the retailer. But with Wild Horse, you're going to, you will require disclosures from a couple of additional managers. And I suspect, just to confirm for me, Barry, that part of the analysis is, I don't want to say control, but decision-making that would influence our review by those people. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair. In each of these instances, when we have a retailer who looks like they qualify either under this tribal policy or under the previously adopted policy for multi-state chains, large corporations like Walmart's, we look at the corporate structure and then determine the appropriate level of disclosure based on immediacy of, and I would use the word control, who has decision-making authority in the actual operation of the business and who might have then access to lottery products and the dollars associated.
Yeah, great. I just wanted to confirm because I want to make sure people understand that this is what we've done with other entities like Walmart, and we're really applying the exact same standard here.
Yes, and I would just add, if I may, Madam Chair, that under both processes or both criteria, the corporate structures will vary, and particularly among our 9 federally recognized tribes, the corporate structures among each tribe is different, and so each one will be a case-by-case basis if applications come in.
Right. Okay. Thank you. With that, is there a motion to approve the alternative disclosure process for these entities?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission approve the alternative disclosure process, waiving the personal disclosure requirements for Southern Oregon Entertainment LLC, doing business as Roxy Ann Lanes at Bear Creek, and Wild Horse Entertainment LLC, doing business as Hamley Steakhouse, and the golf course at Birch Creek as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. I think with that, we're going to get some staff updates, but I wanted to take a moment and thank all of you and the staff for the great prep work that you give us. Your materials to us are very thorough and help us really get to decisions and questions quickly. So thank you for that. And let's move to staff updates. And that would be Rachel Shepard and Lindsay Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, Director Pack, for the record, my name is Rachel Shepard, Senior Manager of Business Operations. I'm here today to provide you an update on our Retail Partner Management Program. Next slide. Our Retail Partner Management Program, as we lovingly call internally RPM, is an evergreen program replacing our legacy technology systems, HDSS, RMS, and OrderPad. HDSS currently serves as our call center technology, supporting retailer calls and player calls. RMS is our retail management system used by our retail contracts group for our application and compliance. And OrderPad is currently serving as our sales team CRM. This program also introduces field service support tools. Currently, our team is managing our field service interactions with retailers via email. Beyond transforming our operations, this program is going to continue to evolve into a portfolio of operational efforts to support our retail partner experience as we continue to evolve that program over time. Next slide. At the onset, our initial program budget is $5.3 million, estimated to span over 1 to 3 years. Our first year budget is $1.7 million. This includes licensing of our technology as well as a proof of concept, which I'll go into more detail about in just a moment. Years 2 and 3 are estimated at $3.9 million, which includes 2 years of licensing as well as our implementation and ongoing service. The ongoing operational cost is anticipated to be $550,000 annually, which includes licensing for over 200 employees as well as ongoing service support from our implementation partner. We are currently working on fine-tuning these budget numbers as they are based on some of our market research and vendor proposals, but these will all be fine-tuned through the contracting work we'll be engaging in the upcoming months. Next slide. So we have a pretty unique sourcing approach for RPM. What we did in our business case development process is we did some market research with software providers, service implementers, and other lotteries to determine what type of tools were available in the market to meet our capabilities and business needs. And in partnership with strategic sourcing and procurement, we went with a multi-phase selection approach. Our first phase was a request for quote. We were able to utilize cloud service agreements through the state to determine a tool selection. We went through this process in July and up to November. We decided to go with Salesforce, and this is mostly based on their intuitive user interface and their ability to not only meet the capabilities we were needing today, but also scale for future growth. The reason that we decided to do the tool first is so that we could narrow our focus as service implementers that worked with Salesforce in the second phase, which is the phase of the request for proposal. We're currently fine-tuning our RFP right now with launch anticipated in late January, early February. This is going to be a multi-phase RFP. Initially, we will have proposers meet with us and go through some discovery sessions to thoroughly understand our business needs. And then they will do their initial request for proposals. And based on a set of criteria, we will do a down select for a proof of concept. This is a very different approach for lottery in that we'll have 2 potential service implementers run 2 proof of concepts in a sandbox development environment where they will actually be able to show us that they can deliver on the services as outlined in the request for proposals. We view this as a great strategic step for us as we are looking for a long-term partner, and it gives us the ability to make sure that this is a good fit for both the lottery and the service implementer. We will also come out of that proof of concept with a usable product that will help us with our initial phase and launch. After the proof of concept, we will select that service implementer, and then we will put together a proposal for the executive team on the resources needed to actually execute on that project delivery. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we're working on fine-tuning the request for proposal for that late January, early February launch. We're beginning the development of our proof of concept strategy, and again, continuing to define the required resource demand to support the project implementation and for a successful long-term partnership. At this time, I'd like to welcome any questions.
Questions or comments from the commission on this project?
Yes, I don't have any questions, but I would like to comment that I'm really pleased with the selection of Salesforce. I've implemented that in 2 different companies. And I found, really great user acceptance because of that ease of use, as well as the ease of customization and not having to rely on the vendor to do your own customization. So I love the process and I love the choice.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Ramirez will be looking for your expertise to help the rest of us understand all of this. Rachel, this is about an $11 million project with ongoing $500,000 O&M going after that. Am I got that right? Am I misunderstanding
No,
the
so-
slide?
Yes, the total, it's 5.3 million for years 1 through 3. So the ongoing, that will cover the licensing for the first 3 years, the proof of concept, as well as the initial implementation services. The ongoing operational costs will include licensing for over 200 users, including the level 2 and 3 support from a service implementation partner that will stay on a 10-year contract to support any escalations that we need.
So I don't include the year 1 and the year 2s. It's 5.3 is also inclusive of the licensing, proof of concept, and the year 2 licensing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, with an ongoing $500,000 about. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, if there are no more questions or comments, Lindsay, do you want to talk about the video lottery content management?
I would. Thank you. Chair Sothoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Lindsay Peterson. I'm the Manager, Gaming Products Portfolio for the Oregon Lottery. And I am here today to talk about our video lottery content management strategy. Chair Sothoff, I believe you had a question a couple of meetings back about how we manage the various games for video lottery, if we have a schedule, how we pick them, things like that. So we wanted to come back and give you a high-level overview of that process internally. So I want to start by introducing to you the visual that we've created related to our gaming products ecosystem. So there are all sorts of things that go into kind of managing the overall products, process, systems and equipment, digital engagement, customer experience, support, and games and content management. So games and content management is just one of the cogs. Data kind of feeds all of these various pieces of the ecosystem. But today we will focus on games and content management specifically. So the strategy statement that really drives how we manage our content for video lottery is we want to remain relevant and competitive by offering fresh games and features that appeal to a diverse gaming audience. So we really are trying to have a variety of products kind of across the board that appeal to all types of players and customers in the market. So how do we do that? So what we've been doing to achieve this, we're always talking to our vendors, we're talking to other jurisdictions, we're looking at new features and content to add to our portfolio, gathering information. And then we're looking at game performance and content management strategy. We actually have a team that has ongoing discussions about how things are performing in other jurisdictions, how our current portfolio is performing, where we might have gaps, things like that. And then we've started building game libraries. So historically, it used to be that games were housed on terminals individually. It was game software. And every time we wanted to change something, we had to go out and physically change the software in every single terminal. So it was a 12-week process. It was cumbersome. But when we moved to the intelligence system, we got the ability to start housing games on the system and downloading them remotely and activating them on terminals in the field. So that kind of changed the whole way that we managed things, and it allowed us to start looking at content differently and buying content to save for later, things like that. And so it was kind of a whole different ballgame for us. So when that happened, we started building those libraries and we started doing quarterly game launches. So we would launch at our seasonal peaks in the spring and the fall, but we would also launch in our downward trends when in the winter and summer when players were not necessarily out in the bars as much, but it would help stave off some of the downward trends that we experienced during those times. So focusing on building the game library specifically, there's a lot that goes into it. It's a bit of a mix of science and art when we pick games. We know that our players are initially drawn to what a game looks like. Is it visually appealing to them? What is the theme? What is the style? But the math of the game is really what keeps the players there. So are they getting the experience that they want? Some players want, to put their money in, they want to win bigger, they want to go home. Some players want to have a whole bunch of small wins and really spend a lot of time, having that play session. We also know that players hold tight to old themes. They want their legacy content, but they also want to try new stuff frequently. So we know all of these things about players. It doesn't always mean that we pick, the best and most perfect games, but it allows us to look for those gaps in the portfolio, and it allows us to kind of select how we want to fill those gaps when we're buying new content. So once we have the games, we also want to make sure that our customers can find the information about them and really, select the games that they want to play if they're interested in all of the details. So this is an example of how the information about the content reaches the player. We put all of this on the website for reference. We have, top award, payout percentage, denomination, bet. But the other thing that we have is what I just spoke about, which is kind of what they'll experience during the play of that game. Again, it's on average. Not every play session are they going to experience the same thing. But in general, if they play this game Scarab, they're going to be kind of right in the middle of a longer play time with larger prizes. So they might expect that if they get a win, they'll get a mid-tier win, and walk away with a bit of cash, but it's also a bit volatile. They might also get some smaller wins and play longer before they get that midterm win. Or, as we know, since these things are random, sometimes players are going to walk away with neither of these things. But it's really just about informing them of what their play experience might be.
So Lindsay, could I ask a question on that?
Sure.
I'm going to use your concept of libraries because that obviously resonates with me. So this is, rather than acquiring games, what we're really doing is like a library. We're kind of checking them out and putting them back, and for obviously a fee and of some kind. And it seems like, because it's based on trying to keep it current with our player base, that the customer or voice of the customer teams who are trying to get information from customers vis-a-vis the group that's doing the acquisition or the borrowing or the building of these libraries has to stay connected. Is it through the website, the data that we're pulling in here, that you're all getting that same data feed? Is that how we're doing it? Or how do we make sure that the group building the libraries is matching up with the customer side of this?
That's a great question, Chair Safoff. So there's a little bit of a mix and match of data, right? So to start off with, so we're building libraries on our system. We're actually purchasing the games from our vendors. The vendors develop them. We select them, purchase them, and then we own them. So you're right, we can check them out and put them in the field, and then we can bring them back in maybe once their life cycle has run its path. And then we can also put them back out for a limited time engagement. So we have this flexibility of putting them in and out. So obviously revenue is a huge piece of data that tells us how things are performing, right? Globally, this game is great. It's #1 on the terminal and has been for 10 years or whatever. Or this game went out, it did great, and then within 3 months, it was kind of at the bottom of the barrel. So it had short legs, gave us a spike, but we're going to pull it back in for now. So revenue is a huge a thing that tells us how we should do this. We also do get some information from players depending on, the content. We have some vendors that bring their content to the market and show players ahead of time to do some tweaking on games, get their feedback, that sort of thing. Right now, we're a little low on our ability to interact directly with video lottery players. We don't really have a mechanism to track play and reach out to them. That would be more in a non-anonymous play situation. But we do reach out to them when we can. We do try to get that information, but we also rely pretty heavily on revenue at this point to tell us what to do.
Okay, so just one more on that, and then I'll let you move on. Does anybody have a concept out there? I mean, I guess I'm wondering why we would want to own the games. There may be some reasons for that, but also, is there a business model out there where others own and we kind of lease, rent, or like in a library, we borrow them as we need them and give them back?
Sure. Another great question. There are models. There are models out there where we could revenue share. There are models where we could lease them. These models don't typically or currently exist as much in a wide area network like we have, where you want to put it on, 2,000 machines across the state, or 10,000 if the vendor has that market share. The casinos often use these types of revenue share models because they have 5 of a certain game in a bank. They have single game terminals, we have multi-game, so there's some differences. However, having said that, we're looking at different business models. We have been over the years, and we're starting up again to see if we're at a point where that makes sense. Financially, in the past, it hasn't made sense, particularly to rev share an entire terminal, because oftentimes a game equals a terminal in the casino world, right?
Right.
For us, a terminal equals 12 games or 15 games or whatever we have in the library. So there are some nuances that we need to work through, but we are looking at that. And if that is something that ends up penciling out and making sense, we will certainly bring that forward.
Great.
Yeah, I'd be
help?
interested in understanding what our authority is with GASB 87 and leases, and
Yeah.
how that impacts the balance sheet and things like that for the lottery, especially if we were to move towards a large leasing model rather than own.
Malene, you're saying that really because of our financial requirements, it's probably better to own. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
you say?
well, yeah, and because of leasing requirements, GASB 87, we now have to record these leases as a liability on our books. Yeah, I don't know what the rules are with that. If moving from we spend a lot of money and capital on purchasing these things, and then just the long-term lease implications on the balance sheet from a liability perspective. I don't know how that.
Yeah.
How that all would work with the
Yeah.
and things like that.
I totally understand that. I just think that as a go forward, it might be an interesting analysis. In our world or in many businesses, it's probably not the best thing to, because I keep thinking then you just have this stale inventory after. I don't know what you do with it after people don't want it anymore, but it's not my expertise. I'm just asking the questions. So, but I think, government financing is different too. So got it.
It is. Commissioner Patel, Chair Sathoff. Certainly those have been some of the issues in the past. We do have some GASB stuff that holds us back a bit, but that does not to say that we couldn't buy the terminals and lease the game library potentially, or rev share the game library. Those are all things we have been looking at and will continue to discuss internally. And we can do an analysis and, always compare and contrast. Regarding stale content, interestingly, we can pull these games off. In fact, I'm going to move to the next slide. This is the game launch plan itself. And what we do is we will bring them back, right? Because players like nostalgia and they like the older games, or maybe we have a seasonally themed game. So we can bring them back, even if they've run their life initially. You bring them back a year later or 2 years later for a limited time engagement. And it sort of feels like, oh, I recognize that, I want to play it again. And we'll get revenue spikes by doing that. So there is some benefit to having those old games, and there are ways to use them to continue to make revenue over time. So real quick, this is a game launch plan that we currently have. It's broken down by a model, and it basically shows in orange the game library. So these are the games that are on the system but not currently active in the field. And then, for example, on that top row, we launched Shadow of the Panther on IGTE 20 in August. And usually when we launch a game, we remove one because the terminal can hold, 12. It can hold as many games as you want to put on it, but on a single screen, you can get 12 menu options, right? So players can see the entire menu on one screen. So we do 12 as a maximum. So we'll pull something off: bonus burning hearts, lowest performer, or for some reason we think needs to come off. So we pulled something off. Now we'll hold and wait and put another game on that terminal in January, Precious Gems. So you can see that we are spacing out the launches to give games kind of the, give them the floor for a while instead of putting out 3 on one terminal, and so they have to pick their favorite. But if you go down to Bally V32, if you notice Acorn Pixie, I don't know if you are tracking, but right here, Acorn Pixie under September, we put that out. That's kind of a fall themed game. Hasn't been out in the market for like 3 years. We pulled it back off in November. So it was a limited time engagement, seasonal. We did some digital promotional stuff with the fall content and use that as a promotional opportunity. So those are things that we will also do. And we're learning from them. So for example, COVID, we know COVID kind of shook everything up, right? Including what we know about the revenue and the game launch strategies we have. And so going forward, we'll continue to evolve, and doing things like special game launches. Acorn Pixie gives us data to say, did that work? Would we do it differently? Is that game really dead, or is it still alive? Things like that, that we want to be testing going forward, testing and learning. And then we'll refine our strategy accordingly. We'll take these results and we'll make tweaks. Maybe quarterly isn't the thing anymore. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe players are wanting it, or maybe quarterly is too much. Like, we're going to go out and start trying to test some things and get that information. We also want to leverage our game refreshes to engage our players. So Chair Sathoff, to your point, are there ways that we can actually engage more with our players going forward? Can we do some digital promotional opportunities and get some feedback from people? Can we ask questions and do a contest specific to video lottery so we can start getting that information? Can we tie a game to some promotion online with brick and mortar playing? So just, opportunities that we haven't done in the past that may allow us to get, kind of more one-on-one with our players and get better information. So those are kind of the things we're looking at in the future.
Great. I very much appreciate you following up on my question. I hope that you'll continue to kind of keep us current on this strategy over the next year.
Absolutely. Happy. Any other questions?
Questions or comments from the commission?
I do have one question. So it looks like when you deploy a game, it deploys to all of the terminals. I was wondering if you have the capability, or if you're actually doing sort of an optimization where, you segment the market, and a game's doing well in one particular part or particular terminals, you can keep it there. And, so you start to, segment things out. So it's not assuming that it's the same everywhere in the state, that some games will do better in different locations.
Commissioner Ramirez, yeah. So currently we do put them out on a model. So the E20, we have 3,500 of those across the state. And so Shadow of the Panther would go on all of those. Oxygen, Ruby Pays. So because we have different models of terminals, we do by design have them on different terminals and different varieties within the retail. We absolutely have the ability to do segments and start really using data to do exactly what you're saying. We haven't gotten to a point where we've been testing that quite yet. There's a lot that goes into that, right? You have a retailer, you have retailers across the street from each other. You want to make sure that, you don't give one something and not the other. But to your point, we could do it by region. We did a test years and years ago with our poker games regionally, and it actually didn't pan out, but those are things that we will definitely be looking at going forward now that we have this capability.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, this concludes. Oh, I did want to, I didn't say in the beginning, but I did want to wish everyone a really nice holiday. This team has worked incredibly hard this year and last year amongst numerous challenges that we don't need to go into, that we all know. But I do hope that you all get a little rest and can enjoy personal and family time. And I want to also thank my colleagues on the commission for all of their ceaseless efforts to meet the role that we play here. So with that, this concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on Friday, January 28th. Thank you all for attending today's meeting, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye.